Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Hello, excursionists. As many of you know, the last excursion Thursday was the 1-year anniversary of Into the Night. What you may not know is that I lost my mother that same day. It is a bittersweet day for me now, instead of one of celebration and cheer. My mom was my very first fan. She listened faithfully to every episode and always told me what she thought. I miss that. In feeling my loss, I reflected on this past year. So many people have lost loved ones, not only to COVID-19, but to other natural causes, accidents, and unfortunately, violence. But these losses are not restricted to the past year. People lose loved ones every day, but we often don't think about it until it hits us close to home. For the remainder of this season, a memorial dedication for all those who have gone before us will be played before the start of our journey. Loss is difficult and can make us feel very alone, but remember, you are not alone. We are all in this together, and my direct messages are always open. If you would like to have your loved one included in future dedications, let me know on Twitter. Just tag @IntoTheNightPod in a post or message me directly. Now let's walk down the path of memory and remember. Cthulhu Rob's loved ones, Shirley Silva and Sheldon Miles Herman. Dungeons and Doofus's father James, sister Noelle, and father-in-law Randy. Have Dice Will Travel's mother Janice McCrae. Our author Caroline Giammanco's brother, Luke Hageman. And finally, my mother Nancy. The Cardinal. The hot summer sun beat down on the Little League field. Parents sat on metal bleachers, cheering for 6-year-olds, donning Ava Lumber jerseys and ball caps. Out in left field, a blonde kid kicked at an anthill. The shortstop hiked up his pants and wiped dripping sweat from his eyes. They only needed 2 more outs to stop the 10-run surge of their opponents. "Look alive, boys!" An anxious father paced back and forth outside the chain-link fence. "Billy, throw those strikes like I taught you." Given his physical appearance, a few parents doubted the athletic abilities of the man demanding excellence from a first grader. Those vicarious expectations were as much a part of the summer baseball experience, however, as the grimaces made when foul balls bounced off the hood of vehicles unfortunate enough to be parked in range. A hot breeze blew, and the younger children begged their parents for another snow cone. Mercifully, the inning came to an end, and so did the final 3 quick outs that added to the defeat. "It's okay, boys. You win some and you lose some. Practice is Tuesday at 3. The coach gave high fives to his little warriors. Parents collected their sons, and pep talks filled the night air as their footsteps kicked up dust in the parking lot. Young Luke wanted nothing more than to be an outfielder, or a pitcher, or a third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals. He really didn't care which position he played. He just knew his heart would never be content until he held a bat under the mighty arches encircling Busch Stadium. Every day, from morning until dark, he either played baseball, thought about baseball, or watched baseball. At night, he dreamed about baseball. The Cardinals were the only team that occupied his nightly slumbers. As the years went by, his teammate heroes in those dreams changed. Whether it was Bob Gibson, Ozzie Smith, or Tommy Herr, he imagined sitting in the dugout, joking with his buddies, while the cameras caught their antics. Or he stood on the deck, waiting for his chance at bat. In really good dreams, he felt the crack of the bat and heard the roar of the crowd as he rounded the bases. A grand slam. During his waking hours, the voices of Jack Buck and Mike Shannon reverberated in his head. Some days he spent hours tossing the ball up, over and over and over, perfecting his prowess at snagging pop flies. He squinted as the sun blinded him, but it was just preparation for when stadium lights battled him for his focus, and the ball arched, then descended while fans inside Busch Stadium held their breath. Baseball was loved by everyone he knew, but Luke was certain no one had the burning in his heart for it like he did. Still, it helped that everyone else was enthusiastic. He couldn't get to the majors throwing his own pop flies forever. The neighborhood children gathered to play wiffle ball. Some were even pretty good at it. Luke appreciated the opportunity to hone his skills against adept players. Others, well, they were placekeepers he tolerated so he could field enough for a game. Luke's sisters played catch and 500 with him day after day and year after year. It wasn't as good as if he'd had brothers, but the girls usually filled in well enough for him to perfect his curveball or to throw endless pop flies on the side lawn. He liked teaching them how to slide, though neither of them was keen on trying Pete Rose's face-first belly flops. But his little sister mastered the art of tucking one leg under the other as she slid into base, avoiding the tag. He also made her learn how to switch hit so he could practice pitching against lefties. Playing for the Cardinals was all he ever wanted. If he just tried hard enough, practiced long enough, and dreamed big enough, he could do it. He had faith. Dreams are tough things to see dashed in a little boy. Mononucleosis struck in 6th grade. Everyone on his school's basketball team came down with it, but Luke's case was severe. The high fever that raged for days leveled the boy. He lost all coordination, and he struggled to tie his own shoes. He won't be able to play sports. Those grim words came from the neurologist at the University of Missouri Medical Center in Columbia. If you let him play, he will just hurt himself. That possibility was too devastating, simply too much to take away from a little boy, so his mother allowed him to play. He'll never get better if he doesn't have something to fight for. I can't take his only chance away from him. He fell running the bases. He misjudged those pop flies, but he played. Practice was more than a love of baseball. It was the only hope he had to regain a normal life. Slowly, his coordination returned. The dream continued. Little League became a memory as he entered high school. Those hours of using his little sister as a batter's box guinea pig paid off as he became starting pitcher for the hometown team. Harsh realities set in when he knew he'd never be good enough to catch the eye of a big league scout, so he changed direction. He could still be on the field at Busch Stadium, but this time it would be in a different uniform, that of a professional umpire. A new passion caught fire as he studied those big league figures, crouched in blue, leaning over the catcher's shoulder, or running the baselines to call fouls and outs. The big leagues awaited him yet. Hot summers were spent umping Babe Ruth league ball at the city fields. Hard work, determination, and ferocity to make it happen fueled him day and night. But it wasn't to be. Instead of leaving for umpire training school, more harsh realities drove him to the military. Years passed, and he found himself at Scott Air Force Base, as close to his beloved Cardinals as he could get. He even splurged on one of those personalized license plates to go on his red Chevy truck, 9CDNLS. The exact numbers it took to make a team made it clear to all fellow travelers where his heart resided. A few decades of ball games, scorecard in hand, kept the bittersweet fire alive. The pain never entirely left his eyes. The thought of not stepping foot in the stadium as more than a fan broke his heart. Then cancer destroyed all dreams. On a cold October night, he lost the biggest game he'd ever played. On the opening day of the next season, light crept into the hallowed arches of Busch Stadium. Crowds hadn't entered the stands, and groundskeepers scurried across the infield, raking the dirt into pregame perfection. The voices of Jack Buck and Mike Shannon whispered through the empty field if one listened carefully. Glenn Brummer stealing home, Lou Brock stealing second, and the scowling grunts of the mad Hungarian could be found as the memories of a storied team blew through the arches and past the scoreboard. A lone red bird softly fluttered to a landing on the dugout railing. His eyes burned bright, and his chest puffed ever so slightly. He then flew to the grassy area just past second base. The Cardinal had finally taken the field. Thank you for joining me for Into the Night, an anthology series written by Caroline Giammanco, narrated and produced by Nari Kwak, with music created by Alex Sexton. Theme music by Nico Rodriguez. Our links are in the show notes. Into the Night is available on your favorite podcast directory, so be sure to subscribe and follow so you never miss an episode. We would really appreciate a 5-star review, as it helps new excursionists to find and join us. Feel free to share with someone you want to bring along on our next excursion. I'd love to hear from you on Twitter at IntoTheNightPod or by email at itnanthology@gmail.com. I'll see you next time. And remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths lead you into the night.